I guess I'm that lucky person standing between you and your lunch. So I'll try to make this faster as soon as possible and interesting. So as you guys heard, I'm coming from Stanford University. Journalists and Journalism Fellowships. We bring, every year we bring 18 to 20 journalists to Stanford to work on innovation. Okay, this was tour Journalism Innovation Challenge and Problem, and they spent a year there with us sort of exploring that as a solution. And so we focused on journalism, innovation, entrepreneurship, and leadership. And specifically, in the last 2 years, we're specifically interested in topics such as holding powerful accountable, misinformation, fighting biases in news, and etc. So I worked there as one of the advisors, but in my previous life, I was an investigative reporter, actually originally from Serbia, very close by. I founded the Center for Investigative Reporting there. It was one of the first journalism nonprofits. Worked with OCCRP that you heard a little bit about today, with ICIJ on offshore leaks, Panama Papers, projects like that. Also worked in Bay Area with, together actually with Julia, with the Center for Investigative Reporting, launched something called FOIA Machine. Enough of me. So there'll be a couple of things that I'll try to talk about. Really my goal today is to sort of like, especially for the journalists in the room, and I'm glad that we have enough of us here, really to try to encourage you to think about how not to be afraid of failing. And so I'll be sharing some of the concepts and sort of best practices that our fellows are using and other journalists that when I'm trying to innovate. But I would like really to start with something that really makes me think about a lot when we approach to innovation. So I'll share first 3 things, and then I'll move to best practices stuff. So we really live today in this new world where really the communication information industries are embedded in our existence that really it's unprecedented in our history. So they're involving every dimension of our collective and personal lives, economic, political, cultural, but they're not just a general part of our life. They also decide who among us, especially here, who among us gets heard or seen, whether it be as an aspiring inventor or artist or journalist or political candidate, and including bad actors, right? So this map shows something that was created 13 years ago. It was sort of like the idea to show the complexity of internet. And so each line here shows nodes representing basically the network. And so when we think about really the challenges of our that we're approaching in journalism, we used to approach them and solve the problems with a mindset of non-digital world, of the pre-internet. In other words, we don't have anymore the centralized system or the master switch that actually controls everything like we had in the pre-internet world. And so in order to focus on those issues and complex problems, we need to think about them as clouds, I would say, not as clouds that are easy to fix. And then next thing that sort of shows it's sort of like how this actually makes a lot of confusion with our media industry, because if you think that there's a current excitement about subscriptions, especially with the New York Times, with the effect that we call the Trump bump, and we're seeing that there's a big rise of subscriptions, but really what behind that was just it just happened to us. It was not part of our strategy. And at the same time, just like a year or maybe 2 years ago, we were celebrating digital-born news outlets, things like the BuzzFeed and HuffPost, and but like now they're like seeing the loss of revenues, and the model is really dying. And lastly, I mean, pictures like this. This is a few weeks ago from the Denver Post. We're going to see more of a print newspapers dying. These are when they announce the layoffs. And so really the death of print is here to come. And here I want to make a really quick comment on this, is that we spend a lot of time talking about innovation and talking about solving problems in journalism, but what we are focused on is really trying to solve and save news organizations, not the journalism itself. And again, this brings us to innovation, and which is one of the definitely new and becoming innovation is a buzzword. Everyone here in the room, agrees to some extent, depending on where you're coming, what industry from, but so not every innovation really has to include technology. And, not simple use of technology is innovation. So, innovation is not an answer to all of our problems. I mean, I know this sounds like we're talking about journalism innovation, but really, I would be happier if we in journalism are having more of a strategic thinking versus thinking about innovation first. Because if we were to do that, for example, we would see that really very soon we're not going to be using these devices that we have every day. And the tech industry is really already there, and it's just a question of day when the phones will disappear. And there's no discussions about the role of AI. Anyway, enough of this sort of like I just want to show a couple of things here, and some of the things like may look like I'm preaching to the choir, but like especially for journalists, these are the kinds of things that I would like to see more of us using. And the concept of rapid prototyping is something that is so unfamiliar with journalists, because as you guys know that we are not allowed to make any mistakes. Because if we make mistakes in journalism, like that's bad, right? But like if we really want to think about how do we create new forms, how do we innovate, how do we really need to apply this model that's proven successful, like in so many forms. And then I've been seeing people spending, a lot of time figuring out, things perfect. What our fellows are doing, and what we're experiencing a lot is that really, like sometimes the prototype can be really super dirty and get you to this point that, you can figure out what to do next. So rapid prototyping is one concept that really works, and one example that I have, I think Aaron is here in the room. Demos, no memos. I'm sure you know the founders of PolitiFact, when they were starting it, this was sort of like the basics of it. So we spent a lot of time, figuring out a problem and, writing about man, wait, and till there. At that point, like I really love this idea of sort of like do it quickly and test it, and in order to get, quick answers. Another thing that I think is super important is, and we don't spend a lot of time talking about collaborations. Thank you. As a method, the history of journalism includes many forms of collaborations, but journalism has been seen a lot, and there are a bunch of people in this room you know, you're an arrogant solo detective that does, you know, look for exclusive material, you compete. What we're learning that, you know, with the modern challenges, collaboration is really one of the answers. And really, collaboration allows us countless benefits. You know, resulting in not only journalism innovation, but making possible stories which would be impossible in other words. So, I mean, the best example is definitely the famous Panama Papers, but like when I talk about collaboration, I really don't think that that everything has to be investigated and everything has to be on this level. Right now, actually later this week, there's going to be a big conference in US focused on collaboration, and there's the Center for Cooperative Media has been collecting these examples, and there's a database of more than 200 examples of collaborative work on a local level, state level, federal level. One of my favorite projects that's not Panama Papers is ProPublica's election land that was done a little bit before the election, sort of like tracking and covering voting problems during the elections. 700 journalists worked on that. The third point, and I'm not going to be spending time on this because we heard way better story from Julia, and Adam touched on this, but it's really, if we want to think about, if we want to do more innovative work, we really need to think about establishing a relationship with our audience. And there are several layers of that notion. Journalists, and there was a question today about how do we monetize this, and I really think that creating those, creating the social contracts with our audience, you know, getting to know them better, getting to analyze them and strategize is really a way to even get to the point that we can monetize them. So, but like this also includes, you know, involving them in your production plans, and we heard from Adam, Harkin really does this super well and provides the framework. There are more startups in this area that are providing, but finally there's also a component that sort of like focusing on information needs. And this also can bring us to the trust topic. That's another buzzword and a result of the fake news era, and I don't want to go there, but really establishing relationship can also increase your trust. And getting really close to my point about entrepreneurship as a sort of method in innovating in journalism. And when I say entrepreneurship, I don't only think about creating a company profitable that's going to help you, you know, monetize. I really think about a mindset of entrepreneur, and we really need to have more of that mindset in journalism. I really think that journalists make good entrepreneurs, and there are a bunch of things that are in our profession that are helping actually succeed in that. And you know, we are excellent researchers, storytellers, networks. Networking is basically part of our work. Visibility, all kinds of things. I really think that this should be taught at universities where we teach journalism. You know, and some of the things that we also give to our fellows, for example, you know, this is one of the most famous lean. Well, I know a bunch of people in this room are probably familiar with this, but like really, like when you ask those questions, you know, to a journalist, you know, like whenever a journalist wants to do a story or wants to start a company, you know, like what's your value proposition, you really get good answers. And because I'm really now standing between you and lunch, I need to stop here. I'm going to be here today and a little bit tomorrow if you want to talk to me about opportunities at Stanford. Just to close with a final point, there's some examples here. We just announced our new class. 20 people are coming to Stanford to work on their ideas. Mark this website, and I also just tweeted and shared links that I referred to this talk. Thank you very much. And I need to say something, because jet lag is a pretty serious thing, and I'm sorry I was not excited as I felt inside, and I'm happy to talk to you after this.
Seeing the business model canvas, I felt like, yay!
Yeah.
Questions, if there is anything like, if you want to ask in particular.
You were saying about the end of the smartphone. What do you think comes after that, and what would be the strategic difference for the producers of news or of information?
So what I know is that smartphone is dying, and that we're gonna see basically many versions of variables. The way how we're gonna communicate with media in the next 5 to 10 years. It's gonna be very stretchable. One of the pictures that I showed is actually coming from Stanford Research Center, where they created really sort of a thin, paper type of model. But I guess part of the we already are seeing the Amazon Alexas, voice recognition tools, all kinds of non-mobile things in cloud. That will be, but I'm not an expert for that. My point was here that we don't have enough of us thinking, that we don't plan basically what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. We are so much focused on the present. I still get to hear many of journalism executives saying that this is the future of journalism, right? It's really the past, and I think that's one of those problems.
Thank you. Graphene is one of the materials which was recently discovered, which is the only B-dimensional material, and that's going to enable mobile with only one layer paper devices. We're going to speak about that.